This is Trey Relford. He's standing in a Kentucky courtroom today waiting to hear his sentence for murder. 231 years. That's what the prosecution is asking for. But what happens next in this courtroom will shock everyone present and make national headlines. April 2015, Lexington, Kentucky. A pizza delivery driver named Salahuddin Jitmoud was stabbed to death at an apartment complex on Trent Circle. He was 30 years old, a father, a hardworking immigrant trying to make a living in America. Officials say Trey Relford came up with the plan: call for a pizza delivery, rob the driver, get some quick cash, but the robbery went wrong. Salahuddin fought back, and Trey stabbed him multiple times, left him bleeding out in the parking lot while he ran away with $40 and 2 pizzas. Salahuddin died before the ambulance arrived. His family got the call that same night: "Your son is dead, murdered during a delivery." Now, 3 years later, Trey Relford stands before the judge. His mother sits in the back row, crying, and Salahuddin's father, Dr. Jitmoud, is about to give his victim impact statement. The courtroom is packed. Media, families, lawyers, everyone waiting to hear what Dr. Jitmoud will say. He's a physician, a respected member of the community. His son's murder devastated him. Everyone expects anger. Everyone expects him to demand the maximum sentence. Dr. Jitmoud walks slowly to the stand. He's an older man wearing a dark suit. His hands are shaking slightly as he holds his prepared statement. He looks directly at Trey Relford. Trey looks down at the table. He can't meet the doctor's eyes. His lawyer puts a hand on his shoulder. Dr. Jitmoud begins to speak. His voice is quiet at first. He talks about his son, about how Salahuddin came to America with dreams, how he worked 2 jobs to support his family back home, how he always called his father on Sundays to check in. That Sunday there was no call because Salahuddin was dead. The courtroom is completely silent. You can hear people breathing. Someone in the back row is quietly crying. Then Dr. Jitmoud says something nobody expected. He says, "I forgive you, Trey. I forgive you for taking my son." The entire courtroom seems to freeze. Trey's head snaps up. He's staring at Dr. Jitmoud with wide eyes. Tears start running down his face. Dr. Jitmoud continues. His voice is stronger now. He says, "My religion teaches me to forgive. My son would have wanted me to forgive. I cannot carry this hatred in my heart. It will destroy me, so I choose to forgive you." But then Dr. Jitmoud asks something. He looks directly at Trey and says, "I need you to tell me something. I need you to tell me who else was there that night, who else killed my son." Trey starts sobbing. He's shaking his head. He's trying to speak but can't get the words out. Dr. Jitmoud says, "Please, I am a father who has lost his child. I need to know the truth. I need to know what happened to my boy." Judge Kim Bonal is watching this exchange. Tears are streaming down her face. She's presided over hundreds of cases, but nothing like this. She's trying to maintain her composure, but she can't. She reaches for a tissue. Trey finally speaks. His voice is broken, barely above a whisper. He says, "It was just me, I swear. It was only me. I'm so sorry, sir." Dr. Jitmoud closes his eyes. More tears fall. He nods slowly. He says, "Thank you for telling me the truth." Then he says something that breaks everyone in the courtroom. He says, "You are someone's son too. Your mother loves you like I loved Salahuddin. I do not want her to suffer like I have suffered." Judge Bonal suddenly stands up. She's openly crying now. She says, "I'm sorry, we need to take a recess." Her voice is shaking. She walks quickly out of the courtroom. The bailiff doesn't know what to do. Nobody's ever seen a judge this emotional. The courtroom erupts in quiet conversation. People are wiping their eyes. Reporters are scribbling notes frantically. Trey's mother, sitting in the back, has her hands over her face, sobbing. Dr. Jitmoud walks past Trey's table on his way back to his seat. For a moment, they make eye contact. Trey mouths, "I'm sorry" again. Dr. Jitmoud pauses, then nods once before continuing to his seat. 15 minutes later, Judge Bonal returns. Her eyes are red. She apologizes to the court for the interruption and asks if Dr. Jitmoud has finished his statement. Dr. Jitmoud stands again. He says, "There's one more thing I want to say." He walks toward Trey's table. The bailiff moves slightly, unsure what's happening, but Dr. Jitmoud just stands there looking at Trey. He says, "You made a terrible choice. You took my son from me. You took a father away from his children. You took a husband away from his wife. That pain will never go away. But I believe people can change. I believe in redemption. I believe in mercy." Trey is crying so hard he can barely breathe. His lawyer is crying. The prosecutor is wiping her eyes. Even the court reporter has stopped typing to watch. Dr. Jitmoud says, "I pray that you use your time in prison to become a better person. I pray that you help other young people avoid the mistakes you made. I pray that someday you can forgive yourself, even though that will be much harder than me forgiving you." Then he extends his hand. Trey stares at the hand. He looks at his lawyer, who nods. Slowly, Trey stands up. His legs are shaking. He takes Dr. Jitmoud's hand, but Dr. Jitmoud doesn't just shake it. He pulls Trey into an embrace. The courtroom explodes, not in noise but in emotion. Almost everyone is crying now. Trey collapses into Dr. Jitmoud's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. The doctor is crying too, holding this young man who killed his son. They stand like that for almost a full minute. The bailiff doesn't move. The judge doesn't interrupt. This moment is sacred. This moment is healing. This moment is what justice should be, but so rarely is. When they finally pull apart, Trey can barely stand. His lawyer helps him back to his seat. Dr. Jitmoud returns to his family. His wife is crying. His other children are crying, but there's something else on their faces. Peace. Maybe for the first time since Salahuddin's death, there's peace. Judge Bonal composes herself. She says, "In all my years on the bench, I have never witnessed anything like what just happened. Dr. Jitmoud, your capacity for forgiveness is extraordinary. You have taught everyone in this courtroom a lesson about grace, about mercy, about humanity." She turns to Trey. She says, "Mr. Relford, you have been given an incredible gift today. A gift you do not deserve but have received nonetheless. How you honor that gift will define the rest of your life." Now it's time for Trey's mother to speak. Her name is Linda Relford. She stands up slowly, her hands trembling. She's a small woman, looks older than her years. Life has been hard on her. She says through tears, "I sent my son to Lexington to get away from the violence in Atlanta. I thought he'd be safe here. I thought he could start over. But he brought his demons with him. He brought his addiction with him." Linda explains that Trey had been addicted to drugs since he was 16. She tried everything. Rehab programs, church groups, counseling, nothing worked. He'd get clean for a few weeks, then relapse. The drugs changed him from a sweet boy into someone she didn't recognize. She says on the night he killed Mr. Jitmoud's son, Trey was high. That doesn't excuse what he did. Nothing excuses what he did. But that wasn't my real son. My real son would never hurt anyone. Linda turns to Dr. Jitmoud's family. She says, "Your forgiveness has been a blessing to me and my family. I lie awake every night thinking about your son, thinking about what my son took from you. The guilt is suffocating. But your grace, your mercy, it's given me hope that maybe one day God can forgive us too." She talks about trying to get Trey help. She'd call the police when he was using. She'd beg social services for assistance. But the system failed them. There weren't enough resources. There weren't enough beds in rehab facilities. Her insurance wouldn't cover long-term treatment. Linda says, "I'm not making excuses. Trey made his own choices. But as a mother, I'm asking you to understand that addiction is a disease. It destroys families. It destroys lives. My son destroyed your family, but drugs destroyed my son first." She sits back down, exhausted from crying. Her sister, sitting next to her, puts an arm around her shoulders. The prosecutor, Sarah Mitchell, stands to give her recommendation. She says, "Your Honor, this case is unique. The victim's family has shown extraordinary compassion. However, the crime itself was heinous. Salahuddin Jitmoud was murdered in cold blood during a robbery. The defendant planned this crime. He called for a pizza delivery with the intention of robbing and ultimately killing the driver." Mitchell continues, "While I respect Dr. Jitmoud's forgiveness, the state has an obligation to protect society and punish criminal behavior. We are asking for 231 years in prison." The defense attorney, Marcus Johnson, presents a different picture. He shows the court Trey's history. Born into poverty in Atlanta, father killed in gang violence when Trey was 8, mother working 3 jobs to keep them afloat. Trey fell in with the wrong crowd in middle school. Johnson shows medical records. Trey was diagnosed with depression and PTSD at age 14. He was prescribed medication, but the family couldn't afford to keep refilling the prescriptions. He started self-medicating with drugs. By age 16, Trey was addicted to opioids. By 18, he was homeless, living on the streets of Atlanta. That's when his mother scraped together enough money to send him to Lexington. A fresh start, a new beginning. Johnson says Trey had been in Lexington for only 3 weeks when this crime occurred. He was withdrawing from drugs. He was desperate. He made an unforgivable choice, but he was not in his right mind. He presents letters from Trey's time in jail awaiting trial, letters to drug counselors, letters to Dr. Jitmoud, letters apologizing, expressing remorse, begging for forgiveness. Johnson says this young man is 22 years old. He has his whole life ahead of him. Yes, he must be punished. But does he deserve to die in prison? Dr. Jitmoud doesn't think so, and I ask the court to show the same mercy. Judge Bonal reviews the evidence, the crime scene photos, the police reports, the autopsy results. Salahuddin was stabbed 7 times. 3 wounds were defensive, meaning he tried to fight back. The fatal wound pierced his heart. The 911 call is played. A neighbor called, screaming that someone was hurt in the parking lot. You can hear Salahuddin in the background, gasping for air. The dispatcher stayed on the line until paramedics arrived, but it was too late. Surveillance footage from the apartment complex shows Trey running from the scene. He's carrying a pizza box and a delivery bag. 20 minutes later, the footage shows him returning with 2 other men. They're laughing. They're eating the pizza. Those 2 men were never charged. They testified against Trey in exchange for immunity. They claimed they didn't know about the murder until after it happened. The prosecution believed them, or at least couldn't prove otherwise. Judge Bonal closes the folder. She looks at Trey. She looks at Dr. Jitmoud. She looks at the courtroom full of people waiting for her decision. Judge Bonal begins. She says, "Mr. Relford, stand up, please." Trey stands, his legs shaking. His lawyer stands with him. She says, "I have presided over many criminal cases. I have heard many victim impact statements, but I have never in all my years on this bench witnessed what I witnessed today. Dr. Jitmoud's forgiveness is a testament to his character, his faith, and his strength." However, she continues, "This court must balance mercy with justice. You took a man's life. You planned a robbery that resulted in murder. You showed no mercy to Salahuddin Jitmoud when he begged for his life. The crime scene evidence shows he said, 'Please don't,' before you stabbed him." The courtroom is silent again. Trey is crying quietly. Judge Bonal says the prosecution has asked for 231 years. That would effectively be a life sentence for you. You would die in prison, never having a chance at redemption. But Dr. Jitmoud has asked for mercy, and I believe the justice system should listen to the voices of victims and their families. She pauses for a long moment. Therefore, she says, "I sentence you to 40 years in the Kentucky State Penitentiary. You will serve a minimum of 20 years before being eligible for parole." The courtroom reacts. Some people think it's too lenient, others think it's fair. Trey is crying, nodding. His mother collapses in relief. Judge Bonal continues. She says, "Mr. Relford, you have been given a gift today. Dr. Jitmoud could have asked me to throw away the key. He could have demanded you spend your entire life behind bars. He didn't. He showed you mercy. How you honor that mercy will determine what kind of man you become. I expect you to use your time in prison wisely. Get your education. Get treatment for your addiction. Become someone who can help other young people avoid the path you took. When you stand before the parole board in 20 years, I want them to see a changed man, a man worthy of the forgiveness Dr. Jitmoud has given you." She looks at Dr. Jitmoud. She says to the victim's family, "I hope this sentence brings you some measure of peace. I know nothing can bring Salahuddin back, but perhaps knowing his death will not be in vain, that it might lead to Trey Relford's redemption, perhaps that can provide some comfort." Dr. Jitmoud nods. He's still crying, but he mouths thank you to the judge. Before Trey is led away, he asks if he can say something. The judge allows it. Trey turns to face Dr. Jitmoud's family. He says, "I know sorry isn't enough. I know nothing I say can bring your son back, but I need you to know that I think about him every day. I think about what I took from you, what I took from the world. Trey's voice breaks. He says your son was a good man. I looked him up. I read about him. He was helping people. He was sending money back to his family. He was everything I'm not, and I killed him for $40 and 2 pizzas. He wipes his eyes. He says I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I promise you I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to earn it. I'm going to get clean. I'm going to get help. And when I get out of prison, if I get out of prison, I'm going to spend every day trying to honor your son's memory. He looks at Dr. Jitmoud directly. He says, thank you for not hating me. Thank you for seeing me as a human being when I acted like a monster. I won't let you down. Dr. Jitmoud stands and nods to Trey. No words, just acknowledgement. The bailiff moves to escort Trey out, but as he walks past Dr. Jitmoud's row, the doctor stands up. He steps into the aisle. The bailiff stops. Dr. Jitmoud says, wait, one moment please. He walks up to Trey. They're standing face to face. Dr. Jitmoud reaches out and puts both hands on Trey's shoulders. He says, in my faith, we believe every soul can be redeemed. I believe there is good in you. I believe you can change. Go and do better, be better, make your life mean something. Then he does something that makes the entire courtroom gasp. He kisses Trey's forehead like a father. Trey completely breaks down. He's sobbing so hard the bailiff has to hold him up. He can't speak. He can't move. Dr. Jitmoud's son was murdered, and here he is offering comfort to the murderer. The bailiff gives them a moment. Then slowly, gently, he leads Trey toward the door. Trey looks back at Dr. Jitmoud one last time. The doctor raises his hand in a wave. Trey nods, tears still streaming, and then he's gone. After Trey is gone, the courtroom slowly empties. People are stunned. Reporters are on their phones calling their editors. This story is going to be everywhere. Outside the courthouse, Dr. Jitmoud speaks to the media. He's surrounded by cameras and microphones. He's composed now, though his eyes are still red. A reporter asks, how can you forgive the man who murdered your son? Dr. Jitmoud says it is not easy. I will not pretend it is easy. I cry every day for my son. I miss him every moment. But hatred is poison. It would destroy me from the inside. I must forgive to survive. Another reporter asks, do you think the sentence was fair? Dr. Jitmoud considers this. He says, I think it was just. Justice is not always about punishment. Sometimes justice is about healing. Trey Relford's life is not over. He has a chance to change. My son does not have that chance, but perhaps Trey can live a life that honors Salahuddin's memory. His wife, standing next to him, adds, our faith teaches us that mercy is stronger than vengeance. We choose mercy. Trey's mother also speaks briefly. She thanks Dr. Jitmoud's family. She says, I will never understand your strength. What you did today, the forgiveness you showed, it saved my son's life. In a way, it saved mine too. She's asked about Trey's future. She says, I'm going to visit him every week. I'm going to make sure he gets the help he needs. Drug counseling, therapy, education. When he gets out, if he gets out, I'll be there to help him rebuild his life. A reporter asks if she thinks Trey will change. Linda says, I have to believe he will, because if I don't believe in redemption, what's the point of anything? The story makes national news. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, they all cover it. The headline everywhere is Father Forgives Son's Killer in Emotional Courtroom Scene. Social media explodes. Some people praise Dr. Jitmoud. They call him a saint. They say he's an example of true faith and humanity. Others criticize him. They say he's too soft. They say Trey should have gotten life without parole. Religious leaders from different faiths weigh in. An imam says this is the essence of Islam, forgiveness and mercy. A Christian pastor says this is what Christ taught, love your enemies. A rabbi says this is tikkun olam, repairing the world through acts of kindness. Victims' rights advocates are divided. Some say victims' families should have a say in sentencing. Others worry this sets a dangerous precedent. What if every family is pressured to forgive? Legal experts discuss the case. One law professor says the judge walked a fine line. She had to respect the victim's family wishes while also upholding the law. Another says this sentence might actually be more effective than life imprisonment. Trey has hope. Hope can be a powerful motivator for change. 6 months after the sentencing, Dr. Jitmoud does something remarkable. He starts a non-profit organization called Salahuddin's Second Chances. The organization helps young people struggling with addiction get treatment and support. He says, "My son's death will not be meaningless. If we can save even one person from the path Trey Relford took, then something good came from this tragedy." Trey, now in prison, gets involved with the organization from inside. He writes letters to at-risk youth. He shares his story as a cautionary tale. He earns his GED. He completes a drug treatment program. He attends weekly therapy sessions. Prison officials say Trey is a model inmate. He tutors other prisoners. He volunteers in the prison library. He's become a mentor to younger inmates. 3 years into his sentence, Dr. Jitmoud visits Trey in prison. It's their first meeting since that day in court. The meeting is private, but afterward, Dr. Jitmoud tells reporters it went well. He says, "Trey is changing. I can see it. He's not the same person who killed my son. That doesn't erase what he did, but it gives me hope." Trey's mother says her son talks about Dr. Jitmoud constantly. He says the doctor saved his life. He says he has a purpose now to make sure his life means something. In 2022, 7 years after the murder, Dr. Jitmoud writes a letter to the parole board. Trey isn't eligible for parole yet, but the doctor wants his statement on record. The letter says, "I am the father of Salahuddin Jitmoud, who was murdered by Trey Relford in 2015. When Trey is eligible for parole in 2035, I ask that you seriously consider releasing him. He has shown genuine remorse. He has worked hard to better himself. He deserves a second chance at life." This letter becomes news again. People are amazed. 7 years later, and Dr. Jitmoud is still advocating for his son's killer. A journalist interviews Dr. Jitmoud about the letter. She asks, "Aren't you angry? Don't you ever feel rage?" Dr. Jitmoud says, "Of course I do. I'm human. There are days when I want to scream, days when I want to blame Trey for everything wrong in my life, but those feelings pass. And what remains is the choice I made in that courtroom to forgive. I must honor that choice every day." The journalist asks what he would say to other victims' families struggling with forgiveness. Dr. Jitmoud says, "I would never tell someone they must forgive. That is a deeply personal choice. For me, forgiveness was about survival. But for others, justice might mean something different. There is no right way to grieve." Today, as of 2024, Trey Relford is still in prison. He has 11 more years before he's eligible for parole. He continues to work on himself. He continues to write letters. He continues to honor Dr. Jitmoud's forgiveness. Dr. Jitmoud continues his nonprofit work. Salahuddin's Second Chances has helped over 200 young people get addiction treatment. Several of them credit the program with saving their lives. When asked about his legacy, Dr. Jitmoud says, "I hope people remember my son for who he was, a kind, hardworking man. But I also hope people remember that forgiveness is possible. Even in the darkest circumstances, even when it seems impossible, forgiveness is possible." And Trey, in a recent interview from prison, he was asked what he wants people to know. He said, "I want people to know that Dr. Jitmoud is one of the greatest men I've ever met. He showed me what real strength looks like. Not violence, not revenge, but mercy. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that mercy." This is the story of murder, loss, and an extraordinary act of forgiveness. A story that proves sometimes, just sometimes, kindness does prevail.